Hello, I'm Ryan Clements. Welcome to my video blog. Today we're talking breathing. We're talking what's good breathing, what's bad breathing, and all the health problems that can be caused from bad breathing. We'll be talking about the mechanical health problems of bad breathing, physiological problems, psychological problems, and also touch on the spiritual component of breathing. So, as always, we'll break it down into the polarities of breathing. We have sympathetic and parasympathetic. So sympathetic is your fight and flight mode, where we breathe in through the mouth and in through largely our upper part of our chest, which is what we do when we're doing physical exercise. And parasympathetic breathing is when we're relaxing, rest, digest, breathe in through our nose. As we breathe in, the first 2/3 of the in-breath is all through our abdomen, and the last third is through including our chest in that as well. So when it comes to breathing pattern disorder, bad breathing, it's when there's an imbalance between the two, between the sympathetic and parasympathetic. And 99 times out of 100, we tend to go towards sympathetic breathing. So a great test to know if you have an imbalance is that right now, if you're sitting down doing nothing, relaxing, you should put a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly button. Take a breath in through the nose, and the first 2/3 should be through your abdomen only, so just that lower hand moving, and the last third, the chest gets involved as well, so both move up, and then breathing out through your nose, both fall back down as well. So that's what good breathing is, and often there's a disorder between the two. More commonly, we lift our chest and leaning towards sympathetic breathing. We lift our chest first and then our stomach later, or we struggle not to move our chest while breathing through our abdomen. So with breathing, it's very interconnected with all the other systems in our body. So this is what I call the tetrahedron of breath. We have psycho-emotional, musculoskeletal, and diet and digestion factors that all influence each other, and as well as breathing. So psycho-emotional, just for an example, if we start to think about a stressful emotion or memory that we've had or an experience, our breathing tends to adapt to that as well. So our breathing simply reflects what's going on in our mind. With musculoskeletal, that's how our muscles and our joints are. If we have joints that aren't moving or muscles that are too tight, that's going to restrict how we breathe. Also, if we have muscles that aren't strong enough, that will also affect our breathing as well. Diet and digestion, huge factor that influence breathing. As we breathe parasympathetically with those first 2/3, it's all in through the abdomen, increasing that abdominal pressure. And if we have any form of organ or bowel inflammation due to poor diet and digestion, our bodies are not going to want to breathe into your abdomen, because you'll be compressing inflamed structures. If you've ever rolled your ankle and you've seen it's inflamed and swollen, the last thing you want to do is put pressure on it. So that's exactly what's happening with bad digestion and not breathing parasympathetically. So what are some mechanical problems associated to a breathing pattern disorder? Well, when we breathe in, our spine straightens out and we get a little bit taller, and as we breathe out, the curves in our spine increase and we get a little bit shorter. This is an important process for our spine, because it's this pumping action that causes nutrients to flow into the discs in our spine. So if we're stuck breathing sympathetically, or not moving, having that full extension of breath, the pumping action is not going to get nutrients into the disc, and that's going to cause the discs to wear away. And disc degeneration is very hard to recover from and can cause very painful slip discs or disc herniations, especially in like the lower back and the neck. The other main mechanical cause of or problem from breathing pattern disorder is core strength or core stability. Often you'll hear of someone having an ankle injury or a knee injury, a hip injury, even a back injury, and they'll go to the likes of a physio or a chiropractor, and they would say, oh, through their assessment, they'll find that you have a weak core. And if you don't have a strong and stable core, then the ability to control your limbs decrease, and that will contribute towards those injuries. So you can do all these core strengthening exercises and get a very strong core. However, with breathing, as you breathe in for those first 2/3 of the breath, the diaphragm comes down and it compresses your abdomen, and that causes an increase in pressure in your abdomen, also known as intra-abdominal pressure. And that's important when it comes to core stability and strength, because it works the same way as pumping up a tire of a car. As the pressure increases, the tire gets much harder. So as we breathe in and the pressure increases, so our core gets a lot more stable. So you can do all your sit-ups and your prone holds all you want, but if you're not breathing properly, then you're still going to have a unstable and weak core. Physiological factors with breathing. So with breathing pattern disorder, when we get stuck into that sympathetic mode of breathing, there's really another two branches that it goes into. You have hypoventilation breathing pattern disorder, and you get hyperventilation breathing pattern disorder. So with hypoventilation, it's we're not removing enough CO2 from our body. This causes more of an acidic effect or chemical reaction in our blood. And a big thing with the health communities, that if you do some Googling, they associate blood acidity or low blood pH as a cause to a lot of health disorders and diseases. So when your blood pH is tending to go towards or tending to decrease, your body has to respond to keep the pH in balance, and it does it through a number of different ways. And if you keep hyperventilating over a long period of time, those managing systems will eventually wear away, and that's what can also cause diseases. One of the common ones is calcium deficiency. When we hypoventilate and have quite a acidic tending pH in our blood, our bodies will manage that by leaching out calcium from the bones and the muscles. So if someone's ever told you have calcium deficiency, it may not be that you have a deficiency of calcium in your diet, but it's more your burning up rate in your body is too high due to breathing pattern disorder, hypoventilation. With hyperventilation, when we breathe out too much CO2, this causes cerebral hypoxia, which is the fancy word for not enough oxygen to your brain. So this is incredibly important in modern day society, with an aging population, with dementia on the rise being one of the most costly diseases to our society. So get your breathing checked, keep that brain oxygenated, and stay away from dementia. Now with both hypoventilation and hyperventilation breathing pattern disorders both cause an increase in human growth hormone. Now, before all you bodybuilders start to develop breathing pattern disorders, it also causes an increase in cortisol levels in the body, which does the exact opposite to human growth hormone. It's a very tissue destructive hormone that goes around and breaks down as much tissue as it can in order to provide energy for the body. So this is a very unusual reaction to have two very different hormones responding to one stress. So when we have an increase in hormones in our body, we must also have to have an increase in the building blocks that build hormones. And the building blocks for hormones is cholesterol. Much like amino acids are building blocks for proteins, cholesterol is the building blocks for hormones. So if you have a high cholesterol level in your body, and you've been dealing with that health problem for a long time, and diet hasn't helped to manage it, then getting your breathing assessed and correcting your breathing may be a good option to look at for that. Psychological factors when it comes to breathing. So if you have a breathing pattern disorder, you have high cortisol levels, that fight and flight hormone, that stress hormone, that's going to affect your psychology. If you're not breathing into your abdominal region, which aids in digestion, and you develop a poor digestion, you develop poor gut health, and remembering that 80 to 90% of the serotonin is produced in the gut, serotonin being the happy hormone, that's going to affect your psychology and tend you more towards depression. Another person who's done, or a person who's done great research on breathing pattern disorders is Claude Lum. Highly recommend checking them out if you're interested in breathing research. So, spiritual components to breathing. So, I like to start by saying an old saying, as above, so below, which means that as your mind is, so is your body. The mind and the body are connected intimately. They're really a reflection of each other. And something can't happen in the mind without happening in the body, and vice versa. So, on top of that, of our minds and of all the functions that go on in our brains, 95% of it is subconscious processes, and 5% of it is conscious processes. There's quite a big difference between the two. So, how does breathing relate to this? Well, with breathing, we can consciously take a breath, and we can consciously choose how we breathe in, whether it's through our chest or through our abdomen or this side or that side. And when we're not consciously breathing, we are subconsciously breathing. Our subconscious is doing the breathing for us. Also, what we can do is we can consciously observe our subconscious doing the breathing for us. So we're not consciously taking a breath, but we're consciously watching our subconscious breathing for us. So we are essentially consciously observing our subconscious minds doing a physical action. And remember, as above, so below. So if we're observing the so below part, we can work out the as above part in our subconscious. So we can use that consciously observing our breathing as a bridge to understanding what's going on in our subconscious minds, which is quite amazing, because really the only other methods of viewing our subconscious is hypnotherapy or certain drug usage. So to work out what observing our breathing does to us and where we are breathing, but more importantly, where we observe that we are not breathing, shows any subconscious dysfunctions going on. And through the workings of Cyndi Dale in her book The Subtle Body, Encyclopedia of Energetic Anatomy, we can work out which different areas in our body mean what. And so if we're observing our bodies, our breathing, we're not breathing into the very lower parts of our abdomen, just below the belt line, that's a sign that we're having something like financial stress or security stress. And as we move up the abdomen, they mean different things, even showing through chest movement, to do with compassion. There's a whole range of different meanings that if we're not breathing into or breathing into too much, we can work out what our subconscious is up to. So if you'd like to get into that, go check out a therapist that's trained in assessing breathing, like myself, to explore your subconscious and to help yourself grow as an individual. So this is a touch on breathing, and we probably talk about it more in the future. I hope this has helped. I'm Ryan Clements. Keep being.